Please welcome Chuck Collins and Michelle Detwiler for a discussion on hydrogen, facilitated by Solar Coast's Josh Porter.
Aloha and welcome to the Solar Coaster Live show here to discuss hydrogen for the Hawaii Energy Conference 2021. We have some great guests here, Michelle Detwiler of the Renewable Hydrogen Alliance and Chuck Collins of the Hawaii Hydrogen Alliance. Why don't we start out by introducing ourselves? Michelle, why don't you give a little aloha and a bit of your background?
Okay, my name is Michelle Detwiler, and I am the Executive Director of the Renewable Hydrogen Alliance. We are based in Portland, Oregon, but our focus is on advocacy for policy and regulations that benefit the renewable hydrogen sector throughout the Northwest.
Hello from Maui. My name is Chuck Collins. I'm a board member of the Hawaii Hydrogen Alliance. We're a nonprofit based in Hawaii looking to advance hydrogen production and usage here in the state and across the Pacific using renewable resources to drive down carbon, increase resiliency, and improve the economic development of our state.
Why don't we start out with Michelle? Can you give us a sense from your perspective how far down the road we are?
Well, as far as the U.S., not nearly as far down the road as Europe. The industry here, while we produce a lot of hydrogen in this country, about 10 to 20 million tons a year, most of it is gray hydrogen. But as far as the renewable or green hydrogen sector, we have a ways to go. Here, I can speak to the Pacific Northwest. We're making a lot of progress on, again, policy to advance the sector. We have a renewable hydrogen electrolyzer project going in at Douglas Public Utility District up near Wenatchee in sort of north central Washington. That's going to utilize surplus power from a hydroelectric plant to make renewable hydrogen, and then they're going to use that hydrogen for fleet fueling and some other things. So I feel like we're kind of just at the beginning a little bit in the U.S.
We're just getting started. Okay, very interesting. Chuck, can you give us a sense of where hydrogen kind of plays a role in in this new energy economy of ours?
Sure. So hydrogen is a very versatile fuel or energy resource. How you want to describe it? It can be used for transportation, can be used as buildings, can be used in the grid to provide electricity. One of the nice things about fuel cells, which is part of the whole hydrogen game here, is that they emit electricity and heat. So that'd be a perfect opportunity to offset things like propane or other fossil fuel type resources to make hot water. So it's, again, a very versatile fuel that's looking for a number of opportunities across different sectors right now, because again, it's really not just limited to a few different opportunities. There are many for hydrogen.
Michelle, you had mentioned the electrolyzers by Douglas Utility. And after we spoke about this earlier, I talked to some friends and everyone was just really excited to hear about this project.
Absolutely. So I think as we speak, there is a 5 megawatt Cummins. Now, most people know Cummins for diesel, but Cummins bought a company called Hydrogenics that was an electrolyzer producer, and they are going to deliver a 5 megawatt electrolyzer to the site at the Douglas PUD dam, Wells Dam, I believe it is, and they're literally going to hook it into the hydroelectric system. So cool. And you know, it is like it is an all-contained unit, and I don't know how many tons of renewable hydrogen it will make per day. I don't have that spec, but if you look at a map. There's a great map put out by, I believe, the Hydrogen Coalition of all the electrolyzers in the United States, and there's several of them. And the capacity of the electrolyzers is designated by the size of the circle on the map. And the one at Douglas, right there in the middle of rural Washington state, is the biggest dot on the map.
No kidding.
So
no
you're
kidding.
talking, I mean, 5 megawatts, you know, in the energy world, 5 megawatts is not really that big. If you're talking about a hydroelectric dam or a coal plant or something like that, not a whole lot of capacity, but this one, it's big. So
that certainly spurs the imagination. So, from let's say a layman's perspective, what I understand an electrolyzer to be doing is splitting water into hydrogen and oxygen. I know, Chuck, maybe you could give us a sense of how that works and what that means.
Water is a molecule, H2O. There's two hydrogens and an oxygen, and they are bonded together by energy. That's electrical energy. There's different ways to separate hydrogen from different molecules. In the case of water, electrolysis was one of the most popular, and that's where you actually shock the water molecule, and so you're actually adding more electricity than the bond holds, and therefore breaking that bond and freeing off the hydrogen. Then it's a matter of capturing that hydrogen and storing that hydrogen. Here in Hawaii, we're very familiar, especially on the outer islands, with propane. We see it everywhere. Trucks driving around with little white pills on the back, homes, businesses, wherever you go, we see these things. We don't have a pipeline here on Maui and in the outer islands, so these things are all above ground. Hydrogen is mentally very similar. It's stored in these canisters and can be trucked around to different sites or sometimes produced on site. But in a way, it's very similar in the gaseous element of it. So that's how it's created. And again, I wanted to kind of pinpoint that it can also be created from other resources, not just water. So like ag waste and those types of things. We have a really vibrant agricultural industry here on Maui. We'd love to support some of that by helping them deal with their off products and waste products.
As we're talking about how do we get to 100% clean energy, right? And how do we decarbonize our economy? Everybody's sort of lately in the news has been these statements about, there's the technologies we're going to see for being able to decarbonize to 100% are technologies we don't even know about yet today. The beauty about one of the ways of making hydrogen being electrolysis is electrolyzers have been around for over, in their modern state, for over 100 years. This is really well-known, well-used technology. Everybody knows the safety specs. They know how to handle them. They know how to run them. They know how to build them. So it's not like it's, something off in the future and nebulous.
It's great when we can employ current or known technology to to a solution like this. And so I hear this phrase that I think you both shared, gray hydrogen, blue hydrogen. Is there a whole spectrum of hydrogen types? I mean, what do these things mean, either of you?
There's even a pink hydrogen. Apparently pink hydrogen is hydrogen made with nuclear energy. I have no idea why it's
kidding.
pink.
No kidding. So we got pink hydrogen, gray hydrogen, blue hydrogen. Is that pretty much the spectrum?
Yep. So gray hydrogen is hydrogen that's made through a process called steam methane reformation. It is made largely from pulling hydrogen off of natural gas or pulling hydrogen off of coal. Very, very carbon intensive. Blue hydrogen is the same process, but with carbon capture and underground storage. Green hydrogen would be either electrolytic hydrogen, making hydrogen by splitting water. And sometimes that's a mixture of grid electricity. So you might have a little coal on the, who knows, but really primarily green or renewable hydrogen is made through electrolysis with renewable energy. So it's, wind or solar, or hydro or whatever. And then there's the pink. And
First time to hear about pink hydrogen. That is quite an explanation to understand that hydrogen comes from all these different sources.
So here in the Northwest, what the policy landscape we have, and sort of tying on to what Chuck is saying, we're facing a climate crisis. So because there wasn't a whole lot of direction from the federal government, states have been taking, particularly West Coast states, and I think Hawaii as well, have been taking it upon themselves to say, okay, we're facing a climate crisis. What do we do? So the state of Washington, for instance, just passed the trifecta of climate policy. They 2 years ago, they passed a 100% clean energy bill. And this year they passed a low carbon fuel standard as well as a cap and trade program. So you suddenly have a policy landscape where the actors, the energy actors, the transportation actors within that state have to make changes. They have to look at every single option on the table for how they are going to decarbonize. The other thing you have is that with the incredible deployment of renewable energy in the Pacific Northwest, we have a phenomenal hydro resource plus the push to put more wind, more solar. And I know this is happening in California. You suddenly have surpluses. right? So what are you going to do with that surplus energy? Are you going to throw it off the grid, or are you going to use it? Let's use it to make hydrogen. So in that case, you need to have things, not only just the regulatory landscape and the legislative policy landscape, but you need to have the financial policy landscape. Let's put in place in tax investment incentives, some investment tax credits to mobilize the installation of the purchase and installation of electrolyzer, or help production. In Washington State, there's also PACCAR in Kenworth. They have a pilot project to build, and they are building fuel cell heavy duty trucks. It's a much more sensible technology in my mind than electric trucks. So that's kind of the policy landscape you want to see in the public-private partnerships between the producers and the funders, or there's some talk about a hydrogen fuel or hydrogen highway corridor between British Columbia and San Diego. What does the private sector need to do to get that moving?
That sounds like it would make a big difference. I know people that are managing large microgrids, and I wonder right now if they were to make that decision to include an electrolyzer in their multi-megawatt solar plus storage system, if they would be able to receive, like, for example, the federal ITC. Would that extend out to that or not, right, at the moment?
We're working on it.
I think that's a great way to close this out. And I think I've learned a lot again from our conversation here about hydrogen. And I'm excited to see I love the fact that it's policy and projects, so we can actually get these systems deployed and then start to see that curve, come through to what our expectations are. Very good. Thank you very much, Chuck Collins, Hawaii Hydrogen Alliance, and Michelle Detwiler, Renewable Hydrogen Alliance. Really appreciate you both. Aloha. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Josh.
Thank you so much.